guys, welcome back. So I want to touch on everything I have been doing since my Lyme and Bartonella diagnosis. What's happened, what I've tried, where I'm at, everything. I think the main thing that, people want to know is, am I in remission? Am I recovered? Is it over? No. No, it is not. So the antibiotic treatment was not something that worked for me. I did Dr. Moziani's protocol orally. I did Rocephin through IV for months. And then I switched gears into ozone therapy, which also did not work for me. But with that being said, I am very much in a better place mentally, in some ways physically. There are things that for me, going sober, I've been sober for 15 months, changing the food I eat, my lifestyle, everything is toxic free in my house, and implementing detoxification in my daily life. I hate putting numbers, but I feel 30% better than I felt before. So there is some winning over here. I've had a lot of really deep, uncomfortable realizations, and I've really done the math on how my traumas, my life, my old lifestyle, people that were in my life, how much that devastated my health and my nervous system, and my overall well-being. When I was diagnosed, it was the very end of April 2021. Just to backtrack a little bit, in December 2020, I found out on Christmas Day that I had mold toxicity. I do not know if it was somewhere I had lived, environmental, my breast implants, which I had removed in 2018. 2018 was when my health started becoming unlivable. I was having trouble walking. I was becoming extremely antisocial because I never felt good and I was scared. So that was the beginning of me turning to alternatives and getting my breast implants out and really starting to feel more panicked about what I need to figure out what's going on. I have been symptomatic since really 2011, but neurologically since 2013. So for those of you that are new or kind of just catching up to where I'm at, that is my story. I was finally diagnosed end of 2020 with mold toxicity and the MTHFR gene mutation. I am double homozygous, so I'll put that below. That was originally what we thought was wrong, right? So it was like, all right, let's detox, let's clear out this system. Nothing dramatically improved. So in about March of 2021, I went to my naturopath and I was like, hey, I strongly feel I could have Lyme. I remember having a bullseye rash. There was not much knowledge about it then, but there is now, and I really want to test. So long story short, tested with IgeneX, came back positive according to the CDC guidelines and IgeneX guidelines that I have had late stage chronic neurological Lyme disease, which is the Borrelia bacteria, as well as the co-infection Bartonella. We went right into kind of a normal antibiotic approach. So I began with Doxycycline, and I'll list them below. A few other things. I tried Bactrim. I had an allergic reaction. I was covered in a rash. I was itchy. I was miserable. So it took us a few months to course correct. By the end of June 2021, I had been researching because I'm like, I'm unwell. I feel worse, which is kind of normal, but I just had this gut feeling of like, nothing is happening here. So I found Dr. Moziani's protocol specifically for Bartonella because my symptoms are very neurological and they are very localized to my legs, which is common with Bartonella. So I wanted a more Bartonella heavy approach. So during that time, I was doing ozone intravenously, Rocephin intravenously. I was doing vitamin drips, glutathione drips, everything. I was doing sauna 4 or 5 times a week, enemas. I hit it very hard. And by late August, I had become so defeated, depressed, just not in a good place. Nothing was working. My entire life had now revolved around how do I get better, and I was grabbing at anything. So I went back to my naturopath. He said, hey, I want to be sure, because I had not had MRIs and nerve conductions, and I did a whole round of testing in 2016. So he said, hey, I want to be sure nothing has, happened here, like with a change. Maybe, this has ignited, something else such as MS. So I agreed. I was very disheartened, but I agreed. So found a neurologist. I had a nerve conduction done again. I hate that test. Just gonna say it, fucking hate it, whatever. Did it again. I went alone. I was very proud of myself, and I had my little motivational music in my ear, and I'm like, I've got this. I also went and did an MRI. Everything is normal, like it was in 2016. So then we ran a huge blood panel, very specific things, rare forms of cancers, hormones, thyroid, very, very in-depth blood work to make sure, like, are we missing something? Nope. Once again, story of my life, everything is clear. I went through testing with rheumatology, AVISE testing, cardiac testing. I worked with a cardiologist. I worked with 2 neurologists. Every specialist, every blood panel. I've done mold testing. I've done IgeneX testing. I've done hormone testing, thyroid testing, ultrasounds, CAT scans, you name it, I have done it. There's nothing there other than Lyme and Bartonella. And I have learned when you have it this long, right, because I was bit 11 years ago, maybe 12, 11, 12 years ago, it can become this. After all that, everything is negative. I go back to my doctor and he says, all right, your blood looks fine, so we can keep going with the oral antibiotics. And I'm like, sweet. So at this point, I'm just living in this rotation of, all day long, I'm just taking pharmaceuticals and I'm doing this protocol and I'm detoxing and I'm on binders and I'm doing all this stuff and I feel like fucking shit. And I kept waiting for that moment of like, maybe I'm just in a massive herx and maybe I'm gonna wake up and one day I'm gonna be like, yeah, we're getting somewhere. I kept feeling more depleted. At that point, I think I went like a little crazy. I threw myself into every therapy that I could get my hands on. So I did vision therapy where I was having to, commit hours and hours and hours a week to get my eyes tracking together. I've had very severe eye pain, very severe, where I thought I needed an ambulance during one of the attacks, where I feel like I'm getting stabbed in the eyes. It's incredibly painful, blurred vision, and I'm a big reader. So when I was reading, my eyes would jump and I just couldn't focus. So I did vision therapy. I did neural therapy, which, wow. Basically it was a treatment developed in Germany, and they basically are bending needles and they're injecting your fascia, which is that kind of under the skin layer, has to do with your nervous system. And you know, we did my spine, we did my neck, we did my scalp, I mean, my tailbone. It was incredibly uncomfortable. I just threw myself into these therapies of like, I don't know what's gonna help, but something's gotta help me. And I started becoming very depressed, very anxious. And it started reverting back the other way, where I'm like, I'm getting further from healing and freedom because I'm running myself into the ground with these therapies, doing all these therapies and thinking, you know, something's gonna work, and eventually everything I'm doing is gonna come to a place and it's gonna help me. Which ultimately I was kind of doing myself like a major disservice there, because I was burning myself out and I was also frustrating myself. So that was that. I also went to an ENT. We tried gabapentin. He ran some tests to see where my imbalance and my vestibular issues are coming from. We assumed it was inner ear based on previous testing back in 2015. It is not. It's coming from my feet, ankles, and lower back. So that led him to understand there is some damage, nerve damage. The great thing from that is he is the first MD to put on paper the diagnosis of Lyme, which for me was a really big moment because of what I've been through and being gaslit by so many doctors and put on all these psychiatric drugs, and you know, having no one listen to me. Like, I know me, I know my body, and I know myself, and I, you know, was failed in a lot of ways by the medical system, which, you know, so that was a big moment for me. I did that. And then I was in neurofeedback, which is amazing. Definitely, if you have it in your area and the resources to try it, helped me a lot with fight or flight, overstimulated nervous system, you know, racing thoughts, things like that. I was really not entering a calm space in my brain. And it was kind of something that made sense once I understood it, but it's not something that I ever, you know, was walking around in my previous life like, I think I'm overstimulated. Like, so, answered a lot of questions there. So I hit a point where I kind of just was like, I can't do this. Like, I am exhausted. I have never stopped working, so I do work full time. I work remotely from home, which is great, but I do work quite a bit. So I just was like, I can't do this. Like, so I started shaving down everything I was doing, and kind of really refocused on, okay, I've gotten this far. I've learned what I've learned about my mental state, the traumas I've been through, the way I was living very toxically with a lot of toxic people in my life, and the way I was putting band-aids on how I was feeling. So if I felt anxious, which I felt for 10 years, I would drink. And I would not call myself an addict or someone that was an alcoholic or anything like that, but there was a dependency on how I would band-aid my symptoms. I've learned a lot, which is why I made the choice to become sober. So I made that choice Christmas Eve 2020. I've been sober ever since. Fucking best choice I've ever made. It's something I never thought I could do, never thought I would do. I originally went into it like, well, I'm gonna do this while I'm healing. And then I realized what it's done for my mental state, my body, like even like, you know, more vanity stuff, like my skin, my hair. Like, I'm 33, I don't get Botox, I don't get filler, I use only clean products. And I'm very much in my 30s, but I look back on pictures and I'm like, I look healthier now. And so yeah, it's you know, I think with Lyme or any chronic illness, you know, you're dealing with the symptoms and you're dealing with the illness 1,000%, but then you have to visit your own traumas, your mental state, and things you might have been doing, like not purposely, but when I had that realization of how I was functioning through life, functioning through disappointment, functioning through getting ill and having no answers, they weren't healthy. There was not a healthy thing about my life. Everything I do, there's one goal. Does it make me happy? And does it bring something to my life? And if the answer is no, it's gotta go. And, you know, you don't wanna overwhelm yourself, because I did with every treatment I can do, and oh, I've gotta get rid of this and get rid of that and do this and do, it's just step into that light and that understanding, and things will start to flow. I was on antibiotics for 8 months total. I went back to my naturopath and he said, hey, let's stop. And I will be honest, I went home that night and had one of the biggest freakouts, panic attacks that I've ever had. It was like rage was like spilling out of me. And it was frustration and disappointment. I have learned that this is not a sprint. This is something where you really have to change a lot about your life, because I think there are things from childhood and there are mental things and experiences and traumas, things about our life that if left unresolved, they keep carrying over. So that for me is very true. I've been through a lot personally. I've been through a lot health-wise. I've been through a lot in general. So right now, what I'm doing, I'm off all antibiotics. I am about 2-3 weeks away from starting bee venom therapy. So I did all my blood work. I got approved. My naturopath supports me. I have my EpiPen, my little bee hut that they will live in. So I will make videos surrounding that and how that goes. That will be my form of treatment that I will be doing myself. My therapies both are done in my home. So I have a massage therapist that comes every week, and we do kind of a fascia massage, cupping and draining lymph and things like that. So I see her weekly. And then I have a therapist, which when I started this journey, I swore up and down I'm not doing talk therapy. He was one of my neurofeedback techs. I just really felt like a kinship with him. I don't know. And yeah, he is great. So we have once a week an hour of therapy. We used to do in person, now we do it remotely. So those are my only therapies I'm in. I am on a whole foods diet and I'm sober, and I really focus on just listening to my body. And even if it's like a day where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do an enema and I'm gonna do this, that, whatever. If I wake up and if I'm like, my body is saying no, my body is saying rest, you know, whatever. I really try to listen to those cues and focus more on wellness overall. So that is where I'm at. This is gonna end up being long-winded, so I apologize. If anyone has any questions, let me know below, but thank you for watching and thank you for commenting. I do see them over the last, several months. I see the well wishes and how are you doing, and it means a lot to me, and if you are someone that is chronically ill, just it's special to have someone kind of acknowledge, like, hey, I thought about you or whatever. So thank you for that, and I will see you guys next time.